It's time to get you caught up with all things sports.
Yes! 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 Yes!
On the throw-in.
One thing is certain. None of this is possible without you, the listeners.
From baseball, football, wrestling, and more, covering local Cincinnati sports, stories, news, and highlights.
Why is he always calling me me?
With your host, Justin Trento.
When it's all said and done, we're going to look back and remember this is what started it all.
Available on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
Let's play the ball! Let's play the ball!
Alrighty, well, a very happy Wednesday evening, and tonight is January 3rd of 2024. My name is Justin. Welcome back to another episode of The Throw-In. Halfway through the week, beginning the first week of the new year, and we just keep on rolling with stories, topics of the sports world. And we'll get down into it later. I want to kind of just listen. You guys got to bear with me on a couple of things. First of all, getting back into a 2-hour program, nonetheless podcasting itself, I tend to make mistakes. I know the last couple of nights, I'm still stuck mindset in 2023. And so, that's, for me, it's just, let me see if I can fix this. There we go. Let's see what that works. So I have these, you guys see a glare on my end through my glasses, and it's just so annoying to see it, because I know I have my two bright screens that you can kind of see off the glare of my glasses, and then you guys can see my computer screen on through my lenses. But it's kind of frustrating because I don't like that, and I need my glasses. I can't, if I take these glasses off, I mean, I can see colors and I could semi-see shapes, but I can't see nothing on my keyboard. Everything is a blur to me. So I need my glasses on, and the reflection. I want to maybe invest into maybe a black screen where it doesn't reflect back on my lenses. That would probably be better, but I kind of just dim down my screen light, and I guess we'll go from there, see how that works throughout the night and maybe moving forward. But, I've yet to put much up in the background here behind me. I still have the TNC Sports Talk kind of like a frame that I'm going to put back up here. But I want to put it up and make sure it's even and straight. And so I'm going to work on that probably tomorrow, and a couple other posters that I have built. So behind me, I know it looks very, very vague and blank, but I will be working on getting something put up at some point, just not at this moment. Other than that, like I said, I've had, I've been making some typo errors on the show product, still reflecting back into last year. Hopefully that gets, I get that sense of, hey, we're in 2024 now. My finger just hits that 3 by mistake. But we're ready to go, getting right down to another 2-hour program this evening, and kind of want to visit to a breaking, but it's not breaking news. It was a blockbuster news yesterday with the return of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who returned and interrupted Jinder Mahal's promo and ended up giving Jinder Mahal the people's elbow. And then we saw Jinder Mahal, The Rock jump back on the microphone, and we saw The Rock issue a statement how he was going to go out to eat, and he gave San Diegans the choice of, okay, am I going to go out to a booth, I'm going to sit at a bar, or if I'm going to sit at the head of the table. And there's two ways that we can think about this story. For one, this could just be another tease. Another tease that The Rock was in the area or addressed, for some reason, maybe Hunter shoot up a text or a phone call to Dwayne and said, hey, maybe our schedules coexist. Can we meet up Monday night? Can you make an appearance? It's the first night of the new year. It's, the day one. It would be a massive sell, massive viewership, and a huge tease, regardless of if you end up extending a offer later down the road. So that it could be nothing but a tease. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson could sit there and be nothing but just a hypothetical Tweety bird who shows up once in a blue moon. It's almost, you practically, I consider now today, the first week of the year, since January 1st, we are on the road to WrestleMania. Yes, we have to get through the Royal Rumble. Yes, we have to get through Elimination Chamber. But all of those are just what we have to get through in order to get to WrestleMania. WWE doesn't necessarily consider the road to WrestleMania until after the Royal Rumble. Well, storylines start now. As a matter of fact, we've talked about it before. Storylines start back at Survivor Series, at SummerSlam, the previous year. So stories, I believe that the stories are given now. And if this is, and maybe this is just such a fun conversation to have, that we could finally potentially see The Rock and Roman go one-on-one, that this is why we bring it up yet again another night. There hasn't been any develop in the story. This has all been speculations from the fans, from the audience, from podcasts like these. So when we talk about Roman and The Rock, okay, and compared to last year, where maybe we wanted it a little bit more last year, this year I think we feel a little bit more suited, settled, comfortable. For me, I love to see this match. It's a dream match, and lately the WWE, in my opinion, has failed to deliver on monumental dream matches. So for me, in my reference, I would love to see this match take place. But I'm also at the comfortable point and at the acceptance of where Roman Reigns' storyline is, that if this is nothing but a tease, if Dwayne Johnson's not in any condition to compete against Roman at any point coming up here in the next couple months, I'm okay. I'm a bit concerned because I don't know the opponents that are on the table that Roman has not faced yet that could elevate either that opponent's career or thrive on having great matches with Roman Reigns. So that is my biggest concern heading into this next 3 months, is that I'm good with it. I'm good without it. I hope that this match does happen, but there's a little bit more to it than just seeing this match happen. Okay, you can't just go on and say, hey, we're going to have a match at WrestleMania 40. Let's go on and do it. Now, a couple of things options have kind of already been brought to the table thanks to social media. One of the options is you could see Roman and The Rock at Elimination Chamber, because there has been advertisement that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be at Elimination Chamber. So could we see a one-on-one bout? Of course. Which then led into the theoretical version of Cody Rhodes winning an Elimination Chamber match and it leads to Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Part 2. I'm going to say it Part 2 because Cody, Roman last year, Roman went over, and we knew how that story went. But Cody is also dead set on making a complete cycle to get back to Roman. And so maybe a question on a later podcast as we get closer to time is that after a year or nearly a year of Cody Rhodes' work in the WWE, has he done enough to earn not just a title shot, but to face the tribal chief? Has he gone through enough men and has gone through enough, endured enough pain to face the head of the table? So that was one option that I was given. Another option is that we don't see Cody Rhodes. He goes down a different pathway. Maybe, one of the theoretical versions was watching Roman, Randy, Royal Rumble. Someone, whether it's the Bloodline or whether it's The Rock interfering at the Rumble to cost Roman the title. And then we could see Cody, Randy at WrestleMania while we see Roman and The Rock at WrestleMania. And I'm thinking to myself, that could be a very, wise possibility. But then I'm thinking, okay, I'm pretty sure Roman will pass Bruno Sammartino's for one of his title reigns at 1,237 days. And then, but next is that there's really nothing left after that. Yes, you changed the WWE Universal Championship spot to Randy having it for a couple months, then to Randy, Cody Rhodes. So then, which is nice because now you can defend that title a little bit more, give a front face and center to that championship. And I'm kind of liking it. And then because Roman and The Rock, that feud is all about head of the table, the Owani family, right? The Ula Fula or Ula Falu, or how you pronounce it. I apologize. But that's important, right? That's what that storyline's about. It has nothing to do with title. So, and I've been saying this from day one. You have two options. You don't need to make a title match between Rock and Roman. It's a simple feud for a family, a family-oriented feud, which tells enough story as is. You don't need the little pieces here and there to kind of fix that story. No, it's enough said. You don't need to say nothing. Just make the match, let the rest fall into place, cut some promos in between then, and here we go. If it's a one and done deal, if it's a 2-match bout, if it's a 3-match bout, who cares? Who even cares who walks away? Because it benefits, the magnitude of the match benefits both men. I digress on that because I feel like it will favor Roman just a little bit more. I think a beating with The Rock, like I said, as big as The Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania, in my opinion, this will solidify officially his fate into the WWE Hall of Fame. Or we can see an option where, the title has nothing to do with this year's WrestleMania picture, and then we go on to see The Rock and Roman at Mania for the head of the table. But then the last thing I thought to myself, and I saw this earlier today, I was like, this makes sense. But we've been having the 2 nights WrestleManias. Could we potentially see Roman Reigns main eventing at both nights of WrestleMania? And just hear me out for a second. Night 1 is going to be Cody Rhodes finding himself becoming the number 1 contender once again to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Night 1. Well, then Roman loses the title. Or, you know what? Let me rephrase it. Yeah, he'll lose the title on Night 1. And then, whether you lose or beat The Rock Night 2. But see, if I'm looking at this and how if I was putting if that type of card was on the table, this is how I would look at things. I would put, if Roman would main event both nights, which I think would be an incredible sight to see. It'll be a tall order, but it would be an incredible sight to see, and I would love to see it. And I think fans will back me up on saying this. The Rock, Roman, night one. Head of the table, tribal chief power, Roman wins. But then The Rock costs him his title match night 2, where he faces Cody Rhodes for the Universal Championship. Think about that for a moment. There's a lot of scenarios that can play in. But there's two things, but one of the biggest storyline as we head to WrestleMania in a couple months, we know that The Rock teased the WWE in a potential match with Roman Reigns. At what date, at what time, under what situation, we do not know yet. But we could only speculate as we creep closer to WrestleMania, we could potentially see this match at WrestleMania. The other thing that we do know is that Cody Rhodes is trying to still complete this circle back around after losing to Roman the first time at WrestleMania this past year. And like I said, a conversation for a later date, has he earned it? And then the third option is that Roman has to head to Royal Rumble, most likely defending his title against Randy Orton. And the official kickoff to the road to WrestleMania, anything could happen. So the interesting question is that do we drop the title at Royal Rumble? Do we drop it at Elimination Chamber? Do we drop it off at Mania, if at all? So I want to hear what your thoughts are. If you guys want to weigh in the comments throughout the program, later on a date, social media wise. But to kick off our segment coming back up here after our break, I want to know from you guys, and I'm going to give you a testament of who was the top, who came out on top. Which WWE superstar came out on top last year? Between two guys, I think it's simple. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. We'll talk about that coming up next. If you guys are just tuning in, be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching us, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. You have those notifications on. Don't miss a single episode. And you could also download us and listen to us on all audio platforms, thanks to Spreaker, by engine searching The Throw-In on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify. If it's a podcast other than maybe Sirius XM, any other podcast applications, you can find us. If not, let us know. Other than that, I'd also suggest here, and I'll just type it out real quick because I didn't do my homework prior to the beginning of the show. We have a website, so if you miss all the blogs, all the episodes, all the videos, head on over to our website at www.tncsportstalkshow. It'd be nice if I spell that right correctly here. tncsportstalkshow.com. That is tncsportstalkshow.com. The first break of the evening. When we come on back, we'll talk which WWE superstar between Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns came out on top in 2023. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is a throw-in on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. Alrighty, back from our first break. And I'm so glad that we got our first episode of the new year in and out of the way with, because we were, I feel like there was a lot of botches, and I'm not complaining, but, when you haven't done it in a while, I think one of the biggest issues I had was that for the longest time, I got so set in on the PR reads that for some reason last night, I just couldn't get them out clearly. And I just kept on stumbling over my words, and I just didn't know why. So I had to dig through deep into my archives that I have here scattered around the desk area. And I had to pull out some of my PR reads. And the one I pulled out was dated back on November 7th of 2021. I'm like, oh gosh. I think I did a PR list of what I was going to say. But man. All right. Well, we want to give a big shout out to StreamYard Studios, the proud home of the Throw-In and the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel, where you can create podcasts, videos, host virtual business meetings, and even conduct interviews. You can check out their free version at StreamYard.com. Highly recommend heading on over to StreamYard Studios. Check them out. I know a few people that has been using StreamYards. I like it because it's very simple. It's I'm gonna almost say it's dumbfounded, just so that you can sit here and with just a couple of clicks, and you can make a simple show look, complex with the bar ticker down below, overlays, pictures, this and that, and just all with your mouse, with a few clicks, have it all ready to go before the show. So check out StreamYard.com. And for your all your podcasting needs, or whatever you're using it for. So all right. So I want to kick things off in this segment and into a important question. Now this is going to weigh in of a difference of opinions in my, and from my understanding. But what I want to know from people is, which WWE superstar came out on top in 2023 between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins? And I think that's a simple question to ask. Now, I've asked a couple of people. I haven't really gotten quite answers. I'm actually looking forward to those answers when they do come, because these two men are on totally two separate paths down in last year. Roman Reigns has generated a contract with the WWE, negotiated a contract that changed the dynamic of his appearances, his title defenses, his, what he does and doesn't do. That's all to lock in and secure Roman Reigns alone. And right now, with his storyline being told, and on how he's on the verge, of surpassing legends in the title reign history record book here, Seth Rollins is on a completely different path. He was nominated for Workhorse of the Year back in 2022, had well over 100 matches this year yet again. I guess he was so up high in the totem pole that they crowned him the World Heavyweight Championship. And when Hunter reinstated the World Heavyweight Championship under the new look, you saw, or the first thing that Hunter claimed and argued was that this title was going to be defended anytime, anywhere, against anyone. And I feel like the only logical person that can uphold that statement has been Seth Rollins. I think he took one for the team last year facing Logan Paul. This is not to decredit Seth Rollins and what he's capable of doing, but I still feel like whenever you match anyone up with Logan Paul, and I think Logan Paul does a tremendous job holding his own in the ring, has a couple very good, a lot of great matches, a lot of great moves. He's really taken the business seriously. But when you live, breathe, eat, die as in professional wrestling, and then you have a social media content creator, and he's successful in his own way. He comes in thinking that he could take over. I still put it on the wrestler's responsibility to carry that match, and they had a really good WrestleMania match. And so Seth Rollins, in my opinion, I think has held his own for yet again another year. So my question is which one came out supreme? On one hand, you have the workhorse Seth Rollins, who showed up every week and defended his title in open challenges, and rain or shine, injured or not, he's putting himself out there, making the most of what he has to offer. On the other hand, you have Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, who has only competed 11 times last year. I mean, I remember he did compete in a house match in Cincinnati. I remember going to that one. I want to say that was in June. But other than that, they've really kept him on the down low. Yes, he's shown up when he's needed to show up, but he hasn't really had a lot of actions. And there's that argument inside the argument of, well, you have to give someone credit. If you could show up and say a few words and leave and get the crowd, the crowd rattled, then you've done your job. And I will go out though and argue that I think the crowd reaction though between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins are two different crowd reactions. As a matter of fact, I think that Seth Rollins wins the crowd reaction. I remember when, me and my wife went down to a WWE live event, and both Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns were competing. Roman Reigns, although he was the main event of the night, he walked in, and the fans were on their feet. There was not a single person in the arena who were sitting. And he got everyone's attention. Okay, he was the quote unquote must see person there. That's why people bought tickets, was to go see Roman Reigns, because it's a rare appearance, just like seeing The Rock. It's a rare appearance. But then when Seth Rollins came out earlier in the night, I want to say a couple matches before. Okay, he had the entire arena singing his theme song and doing the stuff for a solid 15 minutes before the match. And this isn't the only time an arena has done it. It seems to me, and I don't know if it still carries on to today, but it seems to me that massive last year's entrance from Seth Rollins, it was a trend. Whether you took it international, whether you were within the state, whether it was a live show, whether it was a live Raw show, Seth Rollins obtained the crowd by just standing in the center of the ring for at least a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes, impacting the entire crowd. I'm going to say this in my argument, and I am convinced if I had to choose one, I will defend Seth Rollins. And I understand that this may be a debatable argument here, but the reason why I choose Seth Rollins over Roman Reigns as reigning supreme compared to last year, I think is simple. Roman Reigns has a lot going for him. He has a couple of championships. He holds the 5th highest championship reign in WWE history with the WWE Universal Championship, creeping up on Bruno Sammartino's 1,237 day. Then you have Bob Backlund, you have Hulk Hogan, and then another Bruno Sammartino's record ahead of him. So there is a lot at stake when you look at what Roman Reigns has done. And let's be honest, because Roman Reigns has done quite a bit in the WWE over the last several years, creating the bloodline, taking his throne at the top of the seed, top of the table, top of the, face of the company. So give him where credit's due. But there's something for me that's about integrity. There's something for me that, and I know, listen, if Roman Reigns could compete 152 times a year, he would do it, plus some. We know that. I don't doubt his work ethic. I don't doubt what he's able and not able to do. That's not my judgment. That's not where I make a decision off of this. But a little bit of contradicting myself. There is a little bit, because Seth Rollins was there. He was forefront and center. He defended. He went up against any challenge, then and there, faced, several athletes, went through hell in several matches. I mean, when you're well known throughout the course. I mean, last night, I compared Seth Rollins to the John Cena. It was the John Cena version. And I will back up that statement that Seth Rollins is the John Cena version of this generation. He's holding down Monday Night Raw, especially when Monday Night Raw is still developing talent that needs to be at the top of the, on the line. The Judgment Day was was still growing, still trying to get fans behind them and supporting them. Cody Rhodes came back from his pectoral injury. And I think that it was a wise decision that we have not pushed Cody Rhodes yet to be up at the top, which he's bound to be there. He is the guy. But when you consider coming back from injury, it didn't go as planned. He was put on the shelf for quite a while. So you almost think about it. He's lost a year of professional wrestling, and he's given more so working his way back up. So who's the other guy that you can potentially fill in the shoes? You can't fill in the shoes with Roman Reigns, because Roman is running SmackDown, and then, we try to have him appear on both brands, but it didn't work out. And you can't have, there's really no one else right now was in the locker room. Last year made a huge step, and that's going to be for another segment of the steps that they made to develop talent. And I think LA Knight, or it was a Grayson Waller or something like that, who said it clearly about the talent and how much it's improved, that you don't have to rely on certain guys anymore to make or break a show. But I got Seth Rollins at the top of the chain for that particular reason. He was just there more, and he's done a lot more. All right. We're going to change the conversation a bit into some football, taking at the bottom half of hour number 1 and into hour number 2. And when we come back, I got 5 top stories that's leading into 2024 that we're going to eventually head into the offseason. Some questions that have to be answered. That's all coming your way next. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right. So, I discovered an answer. I don't know how many people have been keeping up to date with WWE, but WWE's Raquel Rodriguez has been out of action for probably since the beginning of December here. And Ashley came out to notice that she's actually dealing with a disease, or she was diagnosed with something called mast cell activation syndrome. MCAS is a condition in which, and get me if I'm wrong, but I'm just quoting this off of Google here, but MCAS is a condition in which a patient experiences repeated episodes of the symptoms of anaphylaxis. It's allergic symptoms such as hives, swelling, low blood pressure, difficulty breathing, and severe diarrhea. High levels of mast cell mediators are released during those periods. Raquel Rodriguez apparently came out because she came out with a defense explanation with a high count of eczema. And she was just recently diagnosed with MCAS, which now she is going to be out of action for a little while she takes care of that. So we just want to, on our show, just wish her the best of luck, honestly, because we don't want, it's kind of, when this becomes your job, your career, and, it's what you're putting yourself out on the line, there's things like, ringworm, which is really common in wrestling. There's things like cauliflower ear, and so many more things. There's, and then you see, athletes having cancer and leukemia and, this and that, and you're kind of just like, well, it's not like a lot of these athletes today, they know, hey, I got a backup plan, but no, we wish the best to Raquel Rodriguez, and hopefully she's able to get back in the ring very soon. She's worked a lot. She's worked really hard the last several years to get where she's at, so she deserves the best there. All right, so we're transitioning into a little bit of NFL as we get to week 18, and we'll talk about some matchups here tonight, but there's been a lot of top tier stories ending the year, a lot of changes that we are also looking into. And so I got 5 stories here that I think we should honestly take a look into heading into 2024. And this first one on my list, okay, is, can top 10 contenders get over the hump? And I'm throwing out the notion as we head into the postseason. We're seeing teams clinching the postseason. I'm talking about teams like the Dallas Cowboys, where they could get into the playoffs, but then they can never succeed in the playoffs. And can Dak Prescott finally be a contender in the NFC playoff race and potentially lead that team to the Super Bowl this year? Teams like Philadelphia, who made their way to the Super Bowl, losing to the Chiefs, and now they kind of are scrambling the last couple of weeks of the season, struggling to maintain a division lead. And depending on how Dallas performs this Sunday against, I want to say they play Washington, and Philadelphia's over in New York. Philadelphia dominated first place of the NFC East all season, and we can find Dallas walking away with the division title. Teams like Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, who has been just one on top of the other, they've seemed to struggle. Now, one of the things I've heard numerous times, time and time again, is have they been able, is it for them more of a light switch? Can they turn the switch off to on when it comes down to postseason? Maybe it's not important to win 13, 14 games in the regular season, tiring out your players and your athletes, knowing, hey, there's still a lot more football to be played in January. So teams like that, can they get over that hump in the notion of, hey, Miami is headed to the playoffs this year. They have yet to beat a team above 500. They just got blown out by the Baltimore Ravens last weekend on the road. And so when it comes to the postseason, comes to the wild card game in less than 2 weeks, are the Dolphins ready to attack? Can they get over the hump of beating a winning team? So those are the type of questions we're asking ourselves as we approach postseason less than a week away, as we get into the playoffs, which is a wonderful time with a lot of football to get under. But there's a lot of teams that I think valid the question. Jacksonville's not where they're at this year. Right now, their season is on the line. Their division championship reign is on the line against two teams that I think we expected one of them to be good, but not both of them. And the Colts and the Texans that we'll talk later on tonight. And that dynamic of the AFC South could change with scenarios that could happen this weekend. Coming in at number 2, how far can the Joe Flacco redemption tour go? I've heard this a lot. One of my resources, and kind of I get the little tips and hints and maybe even conversation getters, is by listening to Colin Cowherd on the Herd weekdays noon to 3. And he's talked a little bit about Joe Flacco, and I can't help but just to, happen to listen to him, happen to agree with him in some of the decisions in the conversations he's had. But Joe Flacco has come in, and as a backup quarterback, he's kind of been off of that radar, off of that quarterback radar, off of the NFL radar ever since he left Baltimore. And I think a lot of people were pushing him to the side, saying he's done. Pack it up, hang up those cleats, you're done. Well, he gets a second life, another life again with the Cleveland Browns, which the Browns had a backup quarterback. The Browns had a starting quarterback in Deshaun Watson that they had to waste a whole year last year, or 2/3 of the year, while he dealt with the suspension. The Browns got moved on from Baker Mayfield to get Deshaun Watson because they thought he was going to be the guy to get them to the promised land. Well, he's contributed a little bit this year, but he's got hurt, taking him out of the season. Backup quarterback is out. Therefore, you put Flacco in, and so far, so good. He's playing quite well for the position he's at. And I'm convinced I'm on the Joe Flacco trade. I want to see Joe Flacco succeed. But as we head into the postseason, they wrap up their season this weekend at Paycor Stadium against the Bengals. I don't know how much playing time, if at all, he's going to participate, because it's not like he could claim a division. He's in the number 5 seed, and I think the Browns are going to stay there anyways. So we get to the notion of how far can he take it? Who is his first wild card team that he's going to have to face? He'll get home field advantage. And then if he could win that, going on the road to face another team between either Baltimore, I want to say Kansas City, and what is it, Baltimore, Kansas? I know Baltimore's number 1 seed, so whoever wins the wild card weekend in 2 weeks. I say he could probably go a little bit further. I don't quite know if he is Super Bowl contingent, especially not like he was back in the day. Number 3, what do the Bears do at quarterback? Now, this one's pretty interesting because it feels like to me that the Bears are moving on from Justin Fields. He's just not the guy in Chicago to get the job done. And there is that time frame between, how long do you give a quarterback to put before you could determine, hey, is he the guy or is he not? And I think Justin Fields has had the opportunity to prove to everybody by now that if he is or isn't the guy. And I just don't think he's the guy in Chicago. And I think he will get moved this year, forcing Chicago, and especially with the Bears draft picks coming up, I think they have the ability to move and start drafting another quarterback or pick up another quarterback off the free agent market. And that's another conversation for another episode. But the Bears have to do something, and I just don't see it continuing with Justin Fields. Number 4, what's next for Russell Wilson? And I thought, I think this is still such a fascinating developing story. How he's basically being benched the last 2 weeks of the season, regardless of the Broncos' playoff status, which I believe they're officially out of the playoffs. But they also have to, Broncos took a leap of faith. They invested into him. They changed personnel after year 1, and it just seems that Russell Wilson is not fixing himself as needed. Is he also a player that is probably just sitting there? Listen, if it didn't work in Seattle after a while, Pete Carroll gave up on you. You have Sean Payton giving up on you. The Broncos are giving up on you. Seattle's giving up on you. Wouldn't you maybe think that it's time? You're running out of options. There's a few teams that I think Russell Wilson moves on to as a last opportunity, but he's running out of options. So another top story heading into this offseason, heading into 2024 this year, for me, it's Russell Wilson was banked on in Denver, didn't turn out, and it backfired so quickly. Coming at number 5, and I actually think this one is probably the biggest story heading into this year, is that we could finally see Bill Belichick walk away from New England. And it's a bit so unsurreal because it's one of those, he was a life, while growing up, I watched Bill Belichick in New England for about half of those years. He dominated New England thanks to Tom Brady. He believed so heavily that he was capable of heading into, moving on without Tom Brady, moving on without those Super Bowl teams, caliber teams, and still be able to do something special. And over the last 10 years, or at least 5 or 6 years, or 7, 8, 9, however long it's been since he separated with Tom, he has done nothing but just slowly go downhill. So New England this year is ready to part ways. Now, it's Bill Belichick's decision if he's going to retire, which I think he should while he still has a sense of mind, or is there another team out there? And I just think if you're a team out there thinking, hey, I could bring Bill Belichick in and run him in my team, I actually think you're crazy. I've heard stories off the bat that the Chargers could potentially sign Bill Belichick. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, Bill Belichick's such an old school guy. He runs things as a class, he runs a classical team. And he just, the type of thing, NFL has changed over the last several years that I just think Bill Belichick is outdated from what from what NFL is today. So it would most likely look like we're seeing a new site out of New England, moving on from a head coach that's been the head coach for well over 2 decades. And it looks like we could potentially see They'll be supporting a new team by the beginning of next season if he chooses not to retire as a coach. All right, our number one is complete. Let's start talking about playoff implication teams. We'll talk about the two Saturday doubleheader games that we have going on in week number 18. Our number two, we'll talk about some Cincinnati Reds. And we'll just kind of get through our number two so you'll see where it all takes us. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys are listening to The Throwing on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All righty, let's get our number 2 underway here. I just saw an interesting story from Adam Schefter that was posted earlier today. Saw it on Facebook. The Browns quarterback Jeff Driscoll will start Sunday versus the Bengals in place of Joe Flacco, with PJ Walker backing him up. A day off for Flacco to continue preparing for the postseason. That's what I just read, which it's quite expecting that, in my opinion, because the Browns have already sealed their faith in as a contender. They're going to the postseason, fifth seed or not. They've clinched playoff opportunity. And why not just take the week to recruit? See, I think it holds different, when you're the 49ers, when you're the Ravens, where you have the first round bye, it's a bit different because you're going to get a weekend off regardless. And I don't think you want your starters resting for 2 whole weeks. Yes, you want them to be healthy, and maybe certain starters don't play the entire game this coming up Sunday, but you still want them to get some reps this weekend because they're not going to receive anything for the next 2 weeks until they play in the divisional weekend. So it's technically they won't receive anything for 2 weeks after that. So, boy, that's some developing news already as we get underway. Also saw this for the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, running the receiver for the Dolphins. He actually had a lead practice early. You can see this on Twitter. Firefighters are currently working to control a mass fire at his house throughout the day. He left practice early. I guess his mansion that he purchased back in 2022 is worth $6.9 million, according to the property records. It's a 9,300 square foot residence, including 7 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a home theater, and a full-size basketball court, a pool, and 2 guest houses. So that's hopefully everything goes well for him over there. But man, that's kind of some devastating news coming out of Miami, who will be taking on the Buffalo Bills Sunday night. Now we'll probably talk about this matchup a little bit more Friday, because the Bills, the outcome of the Bills and the Dolphins, which is Sunday nights. It's a Sunday night football game. It's the last game of the day, last game of the weekend, last game of the season. But they actually have a lot holding on for what is to come of this year in the postseason outcome. From my references, okay, I'm just thinking this at the top of my head because I don't have it right in front of me. The Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills scenario is the winner will win the AFC East. And the loser will most likely go down to a wild card spot. And then that's where all the shuffles go to. But the AFC wild card spot right now is in hands right now of, because the Buffalo Bills have the 6th seed. The Browns have the 5th seed. The Bills have the 6th seed. And currently I believe it's the Houston Texans that have the 7th seed. Jacksonville holds number 4, currently, in line of winning the AFC South, depending on the outcome of their game. If they lose, they could potentially find themselves out of the playoffs. Let's talk about some playoffs here as we get the ball rolling. We'll talk about the 2 Saturday ones, a doubleheader matchup on ESPN. First one coming up at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the 9-7 Pittsburgh Steelers will take on the 13-3 Baltimore Ravens. As we just talked about this. Okay. As we mentioned this, it was the Ravens have clinched the number 1 seed. They dominated the Miami Dolphins. Therefore, they have clinched the number 1 seed. So they're not playing next week. So the strategy lies is what do you do with the starters? And John Harbaugh stated in a press conference earlier this week that they're going to analyze everyone's health and see where everyone's at health-wise. And then that will determine who plays and who doesn't play. And I think that's great. But we've seen this before. There is a strategy to it. And the strategy now comes in is that you're going to most likely have your starters play. Then you're going to go down to your backups. At what point of the game, I don't know. Throughout the entire duration of the game, some starters are going to be playing the entire game. And if you could, you probably should. And then treat next week as a bye week. Because it's going to come down to Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh has a couple. I think Pittsburgh needs to hold their head up high. Because they already have yet another season with a winning record. Now, a decade ago, if you'd asked me which team would I prefer to select and face and go up against, whether you have more respect for, whether it was Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and the Patriots, or if it was Mike Tomlin, Ben Roethlisberger, or Pittsburgh, I would have chose New England all day, every day of the week. In 2023, I have much more respect, much more. The best way I can say it, I support Pittsburgh Steelers because it's something special when you can have yourself a winning season for 20 consecutive years. That's an accomplishment. No, they haven't went to the playoffs each and every of the years, but when you're winning 8-9 games is hard to do in the NFL. Now it's a little bit more easier, so it's expected. Steelers have a chance to win 10 games this year, which would be pretty good. But then they have a chance to make it to the playoffs once again. Coming into this game that you have a little bit more on the table. And I'm already getting people, and I'm already seeing, articles and videos about the future of Kenny Pickett. And I think that if you are Pittsburgh, taking into consideration of how the Steelers have gone overall, heading into this offseason, that's something that you guys would have to determine. But what I could tell you is that Pittsburgh is a do or die. If you make it, if you win, this is all you can do. All Pittsburgh can do right now is put their hat in the wild card mix by winning this game, and let the faith of the outcome of the next couple games that the weekend holds do their job. Second game of that doubleheader is at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Saturday. You got the 9-7 Houston Texans and a 9-7 Indianapolis Colts. You think about this. Houston Texans or the Colts, they win a game, they're in the postseason. You're talking about completely young rookies, quarterbacks that if you would have came to me at the beginning of the year and said, hey, these two quarterbacks are leading you to a playoff spot, I wouldn't believe you. I would say that Jacksonville is a much better team than they are now, and they should be in the playoffs easily. They should have already won the division. But now you're telling me that Houston has the opportunity. This was one of the worst teams last season. But Houston has the opportunity at even winning the division with a win and a Jacksonville loss. Or the Colts have an opportunity with Gardner Minshew with a win and a Jacksonville loss. I'm like, the AFC South is crazy. And, they've impressed us so much. And I think those are the two teams that have been overlooked because there's so many other stories going along in the AFC and how poor the performance has been in Kansas City. Buffalo and Miami is going at it. But Baltimore, we knew that they were good, but we didn't know exactly how good they are. And then you mention, or you throw in Houston and Indianapolis, because I'm still on the outside. I mean, look at all the conversations. You got Bill Belichick moving on from New England. You got the Bills and the Dolphins winner take all game in the winner takes division on Sunday night. You got Baltimore clinching number 1 seed, Cleveland Browns impressive number 5 seed in the postseason. Bengals got knocked out. Pittsburgh yet again win another winning season, regardless if they make it to the postseason or not. Chargers making changes at head coaching position. We don't know what's going on with the Las Vegas Raiders, and we don't know what's going on. We know what's going on in Denver. They're getting rid of Russell Wilson, but then Jacksonville hasn't clinched the playoff spot yet. Well, like I said, it's expected, and then you have Tennessee. I think Tennessee. No one really pays attention to Tennessee this season. Now, just a little pre-content heading into these games. Pittsburgh beat Baltimore 17-10 back in week 5. So could Pittsburgh go on and win this game on Saturday when you know that Baltimore is not trying to outdo themselves? Would they like to come in and sabotage a playoff opportunity for Pittsburgh? Yes, of course. I would too, but they're not going to go at the extent of playing their starters and playing hard for entire 4 quarters. Houston and Indianapolis Colts. This was a big conversation because they had Richardson and they had Stroud in week 2 kicking things off. Colts walked away with the victory 31-20. Now we're in Indianapolis, excuse me. You got Minshew, quarterback. He's impressed, and now we're looking at a couple scenarios breaking down. So, man, just the Saturday's game, I think it's going to be so. What's the best words to put? I feel that the Saturday's ball game, the doubleheaders that we will see, we will find out winners, but yet we would have to wait a whole 24 hours and to see the outcome of the Dolphin and Bills game to see what happens. And we'll revisit the breakdown of these two of the scenarios that could potentially take place later on this week. One of my things on the list that we'll get to if we have time tonight at the very end is that they've enlisted the Pro Bowl roster. So I kind of want to we'll probably just take a glance at that at the end of the night, bottom half of the hour. So, but all right, coming up next, I want to talk a little bit about some baseball, talk a little bit about the Cincinnati Reds and what they've done this offseason. Are they expected to do more? Are we impressed in what they've done? And, we are officially a little over a month away when pitchers and catchers have to report. We're about 2.5 months away of spring training games and less than 3 months away of the opening season. So let's talk some Reds baseball coming back here. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. All right, we want to give a big shout out to Spreaker from iHeartRadio. Is the platform source where the throw-in is uploaded on audio podcast across all audio media stations, from Apple Podcasts to Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and much more. You can download the throw-in today and listen to us on the road, at work, wherever you are. Thanks to Spreaker.com. All of our music coming back from break. It's given to you thanks to Epidemic Sound, where you discover world-class artists, composers, and bands, find the perfect soundtrack, and give your social media accounts the music they deserve. Epidemic Sound is a royalty-free music link. For more information, check out epidemicsound.com. So you had to go off of that list. Because I know it, for some reason, I just could not regurgitate it last night. Bothering me so much. So, all right, we have to dive a little bit into Major League Baseball. I think it's such a big deal. Off season is practically wrapping up, and a lot of the big deals have come and gone. There's still a plenty of handful of free agents that could the Reds honestly go after a few of them? Absolutely. I would love to see the Reds go after a few more guys. But realistically, what are your expectations for the Reds? We'll get to that in a moment. But, we've seen things like the Dodgers signing a monstrous contract to Ohtani. And I'm like, I think what sucks out of signing Shohei Ohtani to the contract that he was is that you can't really put that X-figure dollar amount based off of the type of player he is, because how do you put a dollar figure on a two-way player that successfully plays both ways? And now he doesn't just play exceptionally. He really goes out there and he's beyond the best of the best in baseball today. And the people that he is being compared to are guys like Babe Ruth that's played 80, 90 years ago. And financially, that's all different. And I think even to then, I've heard it before, and I'll say it, I would defend it because I agree with it. You could try to compare, Ohtani to Babe Ruth, but at Babe Ruth's prime, he was a one-way player. Shohei Ohtani is putting up great numbers as a two-way player, better than Babe Ruth has. It has been announced. This is a generational player that comes once in a lifetime. And I'm hoping that the direction of where baseball is going down, that we see this a bit more. But like I said, in this time, you're now putting a cap or a dollar figure on a player like Shohei Ohtani. So anyone else in Korea or in Japan or in China that's playing the way that Shohei Ohtani is playing, that has not been discovered yet. Now there's something that people can expect to be paid. So, and from my understanding, I think Shohei Ohtani got the bigger end of this deal. Then he agreed to accept so much money up front, and then for the first couple of years, and then everything's back end. But I will still testify to this. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank account. It doesn't matter who you have on the field. It does not guarantee you a World Series championship. Does it help improve your odds? Absolutely. Are the Dodgers now being looked at as the dangerous team? Of course. And this is all, by the way, you're taking a huge risk, a $700 million risk with Ohtani, who has gone through another Tommy John surgery, who is now maybe only available for his at-bat, so a DH this season. At what part of the season? I don't know. And we hope for it's the beginning of the season, and then maybe, just maybe, he'd be open to play some defense. So, I mean, you are taking a risk on the future, and I hope it pays off, because you put $700 million in there, you got to win some championships. And I just think that you put all your blue chips market on one guy to win you those championships. And I don't think, baseball is not an individual sport. It doesn't take one guy. You got to have a team in order to win. So good luck for the Dodgers, and see how they hand off. I was just looking, that wasn't the only player the Dodgers have signed, although I've seen, so many more. I saw that the Padres signed the Woo Suk Go kid out of Korea. So I think overall, over the next 5-10 years, we're going to see a bit more, bit more international players, which is good for the business, good for the industry. Which leads me back around to the Cincinnati Reds season, off season. And, it's been, I've heard it from a report. I've heard it here and there, but, I want to talk about what type of off season has the Reds have so far, because they seem to be pretty much wrapping things up, getting ready for the regular season. And I think we have to first look at what did the Reds need to address. And the first thing that comes to my mind is the bullpen. It's the bullpen, and then it's the starting pitching. I feel like the Reds could the Reds use another at bat? Yes. Of course. Any team could use another at bat. Any team could use another arm, and any team could use another depth in the bullpen. But if you had to pick one category to pick, is going to be, for the Reds, I have to say the bullpen. Because we just got hammered last year out of that bullpen. I think the bullpen pitched more innings than any starting pitcher last season. So let me break this down for you guys a little bit more to my understanding. The Reds have picked up Frankie Montes from the Yankees, which a lot of people are saying that he's a risk heading into the season, and I'll say why it doesn't really quite bother me. Nick Martinez, as well as he could be used as a starter, as a depth. He could be used as a bullpen guy. Emilio Pagan, bullpen guy. And then Jameer Candelario, if I'm saying that name correctly, third base guy. Okay. Let's address the elephant in the room. What we already know. I feel like the Reds have suited up for the offensive power and their on-field ability. We know the direction where the Reds are headed to, and that is young, developing talents that don't cost a lot of money. We're going to build within the system. We're going to extend contracts who we think should be extended. We're going to have to sell who we sell. And last year, what we saw was a stack of fielders that could all play baseball. Anywhere from Matt McLain, Ellie De La Cruz. You've seen Spencer Steer, Noelvi Marte, Will Benson, who actually did pretty well for himself last season. So I feel like we're stacked, and I feel like we're so stacked. Now it's time. Hey, we do have guys that can play. Now it's time to kind of position them where they belong on the field. And I think if we could get that down correctly, and with our at bats, I feel like the Reds have a strong suit argument just to say, hey, we had a decent season last year, winning season, which is always the first step of success. Now let's get a little bit further and now actually contend in late September. Well, how you do that? Well, one thing the Reds don't compare to other winning ball clubs, as you can see, is the depth of starting pitching going into the game. Now, over the last couple years, I think there's been a strong suit to claim that, hey, listen, you got Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft, all guys who you would consider rookies, fresh meat into Major League Baseball. Hunter Green took that ball and threw it as hard as he could, and he did well for himself, but now he's settled into the system. Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft, although they didn't do as well as Hunter, kind of just filled right behind him. And now you kind of have developed your 1, 2, 3 go-to guys, which I think it's great news because now you've established 3/5 of your starting rotation. Now we're just worried about what we are going to see in the back end. Well, right now, as advertised, we can see Andrew Abbott, Brandon Williamson. And what I like about these guys is that paired with Nick Lodolo, now you have a mixture of righties versus lefties. So we're not going to see the same right-handed pitcher out there. And there's a lot of potential coming out of these two young kids. So, but the concern that I have for the Reds that I hope they start fixing, and you can expect this coming out of your 1, 2, 3 slot now, and throw in Frankie Montez if he gets the starting nod, or throw in Nick Martinez if he gets the starting nod. What you're going to see is that now they have to. It's a have. They're not rookies anymore. They have to go out there and they have to give you a solid 5, 6 innings of of a game, because you're eating up so much of the bullpen. This isn't 15 years ago. I get it, where you can throw a pitcher out 6, 7 innings and then have your setup and closer ready to go. But you compare going 4 or 5 innings at best with the starting pitching compared to winning teams that throw their pitchers out 5, 6, maybe 7, occasionally once or twice a week. And you can see why we struggle when we struggle. We give up our runs in the late in the ball games because our relief pitchers are going out there, 4 or 5 times a week, pitching, being asked to get us out of jams in the 5th, 6th inning, possibly even in the 4th. And then we have to rely on our bullpen to finish games. That cannot be an acceptable performance out of our top 3 guys this season, out of the rotation. Then you have the back end, which I will allow a little bit more leeway. So what has the Reds done? Well, they've picked up Frankie Montez. They've picked up Emilio Pagan, Nick Martinez. I see not 1, not 2, but 3 competitors that have been around. Emilio Pagan, Nick Martinez, former Padre players. When the Padres were good, when the Padres are looking to succeed, so they know what they're doing. Frankie Montez, you come out of the Yankees organization, I don't care what risk you're looking at, I think we could work with that. And there's always room to add. Now, we still have guys down there in the minors that are developing, but see, that's the problem. They're just developing. They're not quite ready for major league action yet. And you got to remember that this team is still developing themselves. They're still developing themselves. They still have the approach of, hey, this is a young system. It's a developing system. We're going to win off of our young guys, which they've shown that last year. And they made some ballsy transactions of not making transactions. There's plenty of guys that were up on the market at the trade deadline. There's plenty of guys that were available off of waivers in September for call-ups, and they chose not to make any big financial moves because they believe in the people and in the players that they have coming through their system. And with the 82-80 record last year coming just days away from a postseason run, which I think, there was a lot of accomplishment in last season. I think there still has to be a goal is how can we keep an inexpensive ball club together with still growing and still winning, because they worked so hard last year to win back the fans. And they brought up the guys to do so, and they did so early, and that's great. I don't think anybody, not even David Bell, no Nick Kroll, no reporter expected Cincinnati to win 82 ball games, nonetheless contend for a potential wild card spot. And over the next 2-3 months, we'll start diving into what has the Cubs done. Well, the Cubs hired Craig Counsell, but that's it. That's their biggest move, right? What has St. Louis done? Are they officially moving in that next direction? What has Milwaukee done? Who is the dangerous team heading into this season out of the NL Central? And right now, I still believe the Reds, although there are not top tier names, they're not really names anyone can really, say, hey, that was a blockbuster deal. We'll be talking about that for the next 3 months. These are players that have a lot to fight for. Emilio Pagan wanting to stay in the big league, stay in the sunshine as long as possible. Candelario, he's going to be a valid third baseman, a good guy coming off the bat. He's going to be able to get plenty of playing time. And he's going to probably also be some sort of a mixture of a veteran, who's had success with the Cubs, and, to teach these younger guys a little bit around the horn. Nick Martinez, Frankie Montes, all the same. So I don't think the Reds have done anything exciting, and I would understand that. But they've done enough to make some impactful changes to put them in a better situation than last season. Now, like I said, we got to get to the free agency. I'll leave it off as this as we continue in our program, but we also have to focus about staying healthy. Bullpen's situation last year, you got TJ Antone dealing with injuries. Lucas Sims was out with injuries. And, Alex Diaz was out with injuries. We have to stay healthy. We also have to create situations, good situations for us. I mean, how many times where we went into a ball game with a lead into the late innings and we gave it up because our bullpen was just either A, overworked, or B, that we didn't have that setup developed. So between now and spring training, there's a few more guys, and I could probably in the next couple of weeks we can rattle off some guys that I would like to see the Reds probably go after. They're not going to be contract sensitive. So listen, Reds are going to have a budget. They're going to stick with their budget, and they're not going to overpay for anybody. But they can still make some moves to better their offseason. But if the offseason ends today with what the Reds have, I will be satisfied to see how the Reds kick off the season. I think being able to have the success they did last year and not make any blockbuster deals was good enough for me, in my opinion. That's what's kind of building the confidence, a little bit of confidence each and every time. So we'll just have to wait and see. All right, let's take our last break of the evening. When we come on back, let's go ahead and take a look at the NFL Pro Bowls between the AFC and NFC. You guys are listening to The Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.
we only met just now. And I don't wanna freak you out, no. But baby, all I think about is you and me up in a tree, yeah. You whisper something in my ear.
Alrighty. Well, as we wrap up another program this evening, be sure to tune in to us tomorrow night, Thursday night, as we continue our sports talk program here this week. First week of the year, going off a pretty strong. This is how getting back into the swing of things here from StreamYard and all this stuff. This is how it goes down. It's gonna be nice and slowly, and that's what I'm taking it slowly. This is why it's so late. The game plan is trying to find that balance between daily activities and the stuff that goes on throughout the day, and the son, and got the girls going to school and whatnot throughout the week. And I know it's a bit different doing a 10 to midnight shift or program. You got people getting off of work, coming home, wanting to go to sleep, and sometimes my voice elevates a little bit talk to one on these shows, and so trying not to disturb anybody at 11:45 p.m. at night is the complicated thing, but I feel like, we talked about it for a couple weeks, and this was kind of like the best time slot that I could potentially have that allows me, earlier tonight, 6 o'clock, I was eating dinner with the kids. And I think that's important. Not doing a show from 6 to 8 when the wife comes in, can't do a show in the morning, so I can be able to go to doctor's appointments and go to grocery shopping or whatever I need to do throughout the week, just to know, hey, all right, 9 o'clock comes, I really need to start heading back to the desk, getting ready for the show. It also allows me to generate throughout the day conversation. I know a little bit tomorrow, got to come up with a couple of different topics to carry me through 2 hours of play. So, kind of all builds up in the same dynamic here. Scrolling through social media here, saw the Victoria Diana Perazzo is now all elite. And I say congratulations to Diana Perazzo. Remembering her time with TNA Impact, and such a young wrestler, has had a lot of great successful matches and storylines in TNA Impact. It was only bound time that she was going to find a company a little bit bigger and better. And Diana Perazzo would be someone who I'd want to see in the WWE down the road. But maybe this is just the next stepping point in her career. And I feel like a lot of the style that she's into, that she'll play into, and the role that she'll play in AEW, because there's a lot of females, a lot of great talented females in AEW, and a lot of great feuds I can see her go down. But one of the things that I can see, to let her go do that stuff for a couple of years and then see where that takes her. And maybe she's only going to go up from here. Regardless if she decides to can stay with AEW, go back down to TNA, go to WWE, wherever she's at, she's going to bring eyes and people are going to watch, which is in the woman industry outside the WWE, I would say it's a bit challenging. So congratulations to Diana Perazzo making her debut in the in AEW, excuse me. We talked about Joe Flacco being benched. According to KNBR in San Francisco, from Kyle Shanahan, Sam Donald and Carson will start Sunday's game against Carson Wentz. Now, I don't know what the status is for Brock Purdy, but this is one of the scenarios that I mentioned about San Francisco and Baltimore have a bye week. is I kind of question a little bit about what status is Brock Purdy. Is he healthy? Is he ready to go? Because I know if you give him a whole week off, he'll be fine, in my opinion. There has to be another reason why Kyle Shanahan is deciding to sit Brock Purdy to allow him to get an extra week off. Maybe he just doesn't start, because in my opinion, in my theoretical opinion, he starts and then halfway through the game, regardless of the outcome of the game. Because, oh, by the way, they're facing the Rams, and the Rams have a playoff spot if they could beat the 49ers. So interesting decisions are being made, and we'll find out more tomorrow and more on Friday about how teams are approaching this weekend, regardless if you're in the playoffs or not, just to see, how they prep in 2 weeks, because they could come back and haunt them if, Miami, if Joe Flacco decided to play, or if Brock Purdy takes 2 weeks off now, it can eventually come back to haunt them, in my opinion. So I guess we'll just see. All right. So I don't know how far we're going to get into this realistically, and, but I was just thinking, I saw an article on CBS Sports, and I got a Pro Bowl, is that the Pro Bowl rosters have been announced. You got guys like Tyreek Hill. So I kind of want to just go through the list. You could check this article out on cbssports.com. And we could talk about all we want with the quarterback. So AFC Pro Bowl roster. Starting things off with Tua Tagovailoa, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes. I kind of want to scroll down. Let's see and then the little hashtag on them are starters. Just for those who's watching that's paying attention. And like I said, if we don't finish tonight, we'll definitely get back tomorrow and all this. So Tua Tagovailoa is, would be getting the start, followed by Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. And I really don't want to rush through this, and I know we'll cover this again tomorrow, the rest of this, but obviously two of these teams, or these quarterbacks, will not be available. If not, all three of them will be available, because one of them had the opportunity of going to the Super Bowl. But I guess when I question the Pro Bowl's decision to see Patrick Mahomes, I think is the fan favorite, because I don't think, with the ups and downs that Patrick Mahomes has had, I don't put him at the top end of a quarterback ranking this year in my eyes. I also feel like he also has not been able to control himself. You've seen you could just see it in his face, a lot of frustrations when things aren't going his way. I think Tua is a valid candidate for not only being able to be the quiet duck to enter themselves into the postseason, but I remember last season, a lot of people questioned his future in the NFL with all the concussions and all the incidents that happened last season. So that's your quarterback ratings, in the Pro Bowl. You got Raheem Mostert, James Cook, Derrick Henry from the Tennessee Titans. You got Tyreek Hill, who we wish him the best, as he's dealing with a house fire earlier today. Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen from the Chargers, Jamar Chase from the Bengals. I would like to see this. And then we get down to the tight ends and Travis Kelce. And I'm just not even going to try to pronounce names I couldn't go down. I'm just reading names that maybe take my attract my attention. Creed Humphrey, Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals. And I hope, I know players can opt out, but I truly hope that Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson would follow through and be at the Pro Bowl this year. I don't see why they shouldn't. Pro Bowl is also, I know it's like more of a laid back game, but you're still representing your team, your organization. There's incentives being a part of that. Justin Tucker from the Ravens. It's kind of really all I see right now. We'll cover the NFC tomorrow briefly, maybe at the end of the program, like this one here. But nothing, I think it's a fair Pro Bowl. I mean, I'm not really good. There's not going to be a whole lot of conversation with the Pro Bowl, in my opinion. I'm not a, big Pro Bowl guy. I may watch it to see Jamar Chase and to see Trey Hendrickson for the time period, but then tune it off. For me, it just doesn't really do a whole lot. But man, I gotta say, it's been a great first couple of days. We're getting back into the swing of things. I'm excited. I hope you guys are too. And we got a lot more sports to talk about. We really haven't touched a whole lot of Monday Night Raw, which happened on Monday. I'm sure we'll have to talk about what is the future and plan for MJF, as he's not on that AEW roster. We gave our, want to make sure we got the talk about Raquel Rodriguez. There's a couple of great things going on. We'll talk a little bit about the Bearcats' first Big 12 conference play ever in men's basketball coming up this Saturday at BYU. That's going to be fun. That's going to be a late night game. So you got to be up late to watch that one. But we're just kind of getting the ball rolling. I like it. So just really quick, if you have not gotten a chance to, I'd encourage you guys to head out over to our webpage at www.tncsportstalkshow.com. That is www.tncsportstalkshow.com, where you can find all the latest episodes, news, blogs, and highlights of our product. You could also download us and listen to us on the road with any audio platforms. Listen to the Throw-In. You could also like, share, and subscribe to our another successful day in the books to wrap up January 3rd. We'll head on back to tomorrow night, 10 p.m. start time, Eastern Standard Time. Look out for the notifications so you can catch the premiere of the Throw-In. Until then, you guys have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning into the Throw-In on the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel.